Good evening. Time is 7:02. I would like to begin this meeting. If you would all please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with town charter requirements, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 at 7 p.m. Monday, May 5th, 2025, in the Plainfield Town Auditorium, 8 Community Avenue, Plainfield, Connecticut. All electors of the town and eligible property owners who wish to be heard will be allowed to do so at this hearing. At this time, I would like to welcome the First Selectman to share his opening comments.
All right, thank you very much. The proposed budget from the town of Plainfield is comprised of requests that in some cases are long overdue. I can tell you that I'm concerned with the proposal of an increase of 2.6 mil for the annual budget. In 2020 and 2021, we had no mill rate increase. In 2022, we had a decrease in the mill rate of 0.30. In 2023, we had a mill rate increase of 0.11. Last year with reevaluation, the mill rate dropped significantly, but most homeowners saw a tax increase. During this time, the town has worked to bring services at minimal cost, and just like the residents, we absorb the same global increases for utilities, material costs, and additional contractor labor costs. I can tell you that the town of Plainfield has the 20th lowest mill rate in the state of Connecticut, and I could read you financial indicators from the state and the town for the town of Plainfield from reports that I received from the state of Connecticut, like 27% of the Plainfield households are cost burdened, meaning that they spend at least 30% of their total income on housing. The town of Plainfield, like every town, continues to face legislative obstacles likely to increase the tax burden on all of its residents. Without legislative changes this year, we would have seen an estimated $627,000 for increased tax revenue. I believe that we have to find a middle ground where we can support services and do so by presenting a budget where our proposed mill rate increase is reasonable to its taxpayers. I personally don't believe that a 2.6 mil increase is reasonable. I believe that it's all of our jobs, the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Education, to present something that we honestly feel can pass at a referendum. With that thought, I've discussed this issue with the town of Plainfield's financial experts, the town auditor, and bond counsel to utilize money from the fund balance without placing an impact on our financial goals and not causing concern for future bonding in order to help offset the burden of proposed increases. I would suggest that the Board of Finance entertain using up to $1.5 million from the fund balance and consider thinking about reasonable cuts from the remaining budgets to bring the mill rate increase under 1 mil.
Thank you. At this time, I will introduce the superintendent and ask him to share his thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. For those who I haven't met before, my name is Paul Brenton. I'm superintendent of Plainfield Schools. I'd like to talk just a little bit about how this budget was built. When I came in, I was asked by the Board of Finance, by the Board of Ed, to speak to members of the community when you talk about the budget. And that's what we've done this year. We've held 3 different open public meetings. I've gone to every parent group at every school, and I've asked them what they want from our schools, what they feel they need. This budget wasn't built in isolation. It was built with the community. It was built in conjunction with sitting down with the town, having conversations about potential joint services like IT. It was built in conjunction with sitting down with the police department, talking about the needs of the community and the police responses at the schools. It was built talking to parents about Plainfield. Our community is proud of Plainfield. We're a community with many generations of individuals who live in our community, go to our schools. I have many, many employees of Plainfield Schools who are graduates of Plainfield Schools. I have staff who won beauty pageants in Plainfield in their childhood. They're proud of our community, but they want more from our schools. And I hear this when I talk to families. While families are happy with the education their children receive, they've made it clear that they want to invest in the future of our schools and support the programs that matter most to the children. I've tried very hard to make this a very transparent budget. Every element of our budget is available on our website. Of the approximately $2 million increase that we're requesting for in this budget, approximately $1.5 million is tied directly to contractual obligations, salaries, benefits, and approximately $400,000 are tied to special education increases. That's our open the door cost, what we need just to maintain the current level of what we have. What's in the budget beyond those basics? Early childhood education for the community. We're proposing the addition of full K pre-kindergarten classrooms because research shows that early improvement and early investment leads to long-term academic and social benefits. School safety. For those who don't know, Plainfield had, for many, many years, a school resource officer. And this budget attempts to restore the school resource officer and increase safety and security in our schools. I had someone ask me at the last public meeting about the fact that there are now other high schools that are available to students in Sterling and neighboring communities, and that's true. And while I'm not worried about the impact of that on the 8th graders, I am worried about the 5th graders and 6th graders and 7th graders in those neighboring communities who are choosing between a community that chooses to invest in a school resource officer and security and a community that has not restored that position that was cut some time ago. Facilities and maintenance. This budget puts together a part-time seasonal facilities member to take care of our fields. I spend a lot of time at Shepherd Hill on our fields, both during youth soccer and just watching games. It's something that we need to invest more in. And finally, athletics and support. The families of students at the high school and at the middle school, athletics is part of the comprehensive experience. I speak to you as the father of a child who's playing Division I athletics. Athletics was a huge part of making her the amazing person that I'm lucky to have in my family. We proudly serve nearly 1,900 students across our schools. I've spoken to families, parents who are engaged deeply and invested in what happens every day. This budget reflects their requests and what we're hoping to achieve for our schools. I did something new when we presented this budget to the town, and if you look to the back of the page you have for the schools, you'll see the historical investment and the historical increases that have been made in the schools budget. If you take a look at that very back page, you'll see how many years the budget increase was less than 1%. 1%. You'll see the high points on that list are about 2.5%. What I'm asking is when we consider what we need for our community, to consider the historical investment and to give the public the opportunity to let the public decide. This is what the community has asked for. Give the community the opportunity to vote on the kind of schools that they want to have and to put it in their hands. I appreciate all the Board of Finance members that have sent me questions. I appreciate so many of you who have come out, and I'm happy to answer. Thank you so much for your support of Plainfield, and go Panthers.
I've asked Linda to share a few thoughts before we open up the floor.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Before the hearing starts, we would like to make mention of the following. The meeting is conducted by Robert Rules of Order. As such, remarks and questions go through the chairperson, Mr. Gorman, to avoid cross-talking. We will listen to everyone who wants to speak, but we ask, if possible, try to keep spicy words and expressions to a minimum and to use our inside voices. Please keep in mind that we are here to achieve a common goal, the optimum use of our town money to ensure that common goals are met which is the efficient and successful management of the town, the schools, and the police department. Please keep an open mind. And for those of you that are interested, the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed are volunteer positions elected by the town. And there are several vacancies coming up in November. Thank you.
Thank you. As I open up the floor, I just ask a couple of quick things. First of all, please use the podium and the microphone. We want you to be heard by the whole audience, and we want to be able to hear you as well. Please state your name, your address, whether or not you are an elected of the town or an eligible property owner. And in light of the attendance, try to keep your thoughts to about 3 minutes. If I feel like that we have more allowable time, we will do so. If you, by chance, are reading something on behalf of somebody else who is either not here or doesn't like the microphone, similar guidelines apply. We need to know if that person is an elector of the town or an eligible property owner. With that being said, I will open up the floor to anybody that wishes to speak to the boards.
I got to be the icebreaker. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
This battery's dead.
Hold on, there's batteries underneath.
I can fix it if you want.
Yeah,
Well,
I should
don't
too.
think my-
she's
For
loud,
the next
but,
person though.
yeah. Oh, that goes.
All right, testing 1, 2, we're good now? Good evening, everybody. My name is Carla Stardens. I am a property owner. I'm a community volunteer. I'm very active in the town of Plainfield for the past 20 or more years. So I am a resident, I am a taxpayer, I am a property owner, and I'm here tonight to talk about the budget. I do thank the board for outlining that you can speak for somebody else. So if there's anybody in the audience who needs a voice, I'm happy to lend you mine. So just see me at the back of the room. But tonight I stand here in opposition to the proposed 2.6 mil increase. As a middle-aged, healthy person with a full-time job and a second job, I can take this hit, right? But I'm not here for myself. I'm here for the people who cannot pay more. I'm here for the single parents trying to maintain their home and care for their children. I'm here for the sick and disabled people who cannot work one job, never mind a second job, to pay their taxes. I am here for the seniors who own their own home but struggle to pay their taxes because they're on fixed incomes. And everyone knows if you can't pay your taxes, even if you own your home, you can lose it. So we don't want that to happen. So these are the people we should be thinking of tonight. There are some people who will say the increase, it'll just be 20, 30, 50 bucks a month. But that's on top of what they're already paying. So when you think about it, they're making a decision between gas, groceries, prescriptions, heat. Put yourself in someone else's shoes, help your neighbor, take care of each other. What are we here for if not that? A 2.6 increase will not pass. First Selectman Kevin Cunningham was quoted by WINY today as saying he acknowledged this figure is likely too high to be passed and believes an increase of 1 mil or less would be more palatable. He therefore anticipates reductions will be made. He also said that at the beginning of this meeting tonight, and I question why that wasn't said at the Board of Finance meeting, where the Board of Finance voted to send this to a public hearing. So tonight we're having a hearing on a 2.6 mil increase when it's already been said that maybe it won't be a 2.6 mil increase, so I'd like the public hearing on what the budget's actually going to be. So if we know that it's not going to pass and the reductions are going to be made, then why are we doing this right now? We should be seeing what the reductions are and what the more palatable 1 mil increase will be. So when I look at the vote that sent this to public hearing, it was a 4-3 vote of the Board of Finance. It would have taken one more person to vote it down so that those cuts could have been made. I know it's a hard task to do, and you are unpaid volunteers, and I appreciate your service, as I am also an unpaid volunteer. But as elected public servants, we have the task of putting the people's needs first and to be responsible with our tax dollars. So I just want to publicly thank Sean Peterson, Linda Stardens, and Gary Stallboyne for voting no on the 2.6 increase. And I hope at the end of this meeting today that one of the 4 who voted yes will change their mind and send those reductions to the budget referendum on May 19th. The people of this town are being asked to tighten their belts, watch their budgets, pay their taxes, but why isn't the town doing the same? When I look at the town budget, I see places that can be cut, which I'll outline in a moment. And looking at previous years, I see bloated budget lines that are later used for pet projects, slush funds, and line item transfers to things that are not in the original budget. Why? We must do better. I don't want to be back here for another town meeting and another town meeting to take more money from our fund balance because we've overspent our budget. We need to stick to our budget. So where do we cut? Every year I stand here and I talk about the needs versus the wants. What is necessary? What is mandatory? What are the things that are just nice to have, but maybe not this year? So my question is, do we need them right now? There's around a $700,000 investment to the police pension this year, whereas previous years it was around $150,000. So I question how many police officers will be retiring over the next 2 to 3 years that this investment is needed this year. Do we need it right now, or can these costs be spread out over a few years? There's also a full-time athletic director in the budget, but does it make sense to do this right this year when I read on WINY that we're looking into regionalizing our football team? So why is this position needed this year? There's also a full-time $80,000 human resources position for the town in the budget, and yet in the finance director's description, it says that she is the human resources officer. So if we have staff already doing the function, why are we hiring another full-time position to do it? The Board of Selectmen is giving themselves a 3% raise this year. I think it's too easy to raise taxes on the public when you're able to give yourself a raise to cover the tax increase that you will experience. As a public servant, they should be taking a pay freeze, no increase. Any non-contractual, non-union, non-mandatory, non-essential costs should be frozen this year. It is the responsible thing to do. We also have $100,000 in the budget for ambulance service. I do not see that this is a town-owned department, and I don't see the itemized cost for this expense. So if this is a third-party vendor, then why do they not go through a bidding process for these services? Should this be competitive? And this is also a $20,000 increase from last year. It's my understanding that they bill patients, so what are we funding? Now, I was very happy to see that there is a school resource officer in the budget, and that cost is being shared by the Board of Education and the town. So why don't we do this more often? We should be looking for ways to share resources to reduce costs. We need to combine buying power and share the cost of positions that share the same function. So for example, purchasing. It looks like every department has their own supply budget. Why isn't that a consolidated and centrally managed so that we can exercise the most buying power with supplies? Marketing, tens of thousands of dollars for marketing. What are we selling? Why are we not leveraging free resources like Facebook? I stood here a year ago and I asked the same question about sharing town meeting information on Facebook, and it still hasn't happened. So every Sunday for the past year, I post agendas, meeting minutes, videos. The town should be doing that. The town should also have an email newsletter that residents can subscribe to. Finance. The town audit was late, and the blame is being put on the Board of Education, but are we all not part of the same town of Plainfield? When I pay my taxes, I pay it to the town of Plainfield. I don't pay it to separate departments. So we need to work together to get things done. If our budgets are all subject to the same audit, then the staff should be working together, and it should be a shared resource and a shared cost. Information technology, computer services. It appears that the Board of Education has a pretty robust.
Speak loudly.
Won't reach.
Hello again. We're live.
Yep.
It appears that the Board of Education has a pretty robust computer services IT. So I would think.
Here, Paul has it.
Yeah, I got two.
10 minutes is up.
Are we still? Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Computer services, information technology. If the Board of Education and shared the resources with the town of Plainfield, then maybe we wouldn't have had a ransomware attack 5 years ago. For human resources, Board of Ed also has human resources staff. So when we're paying our taxes, we're paying to the entire town. So it would make sense to me that we share resources with the Board of Education. We keep hearing promises of millions of dollars of tax income from Amazon, Uline, and other projects to come, but that money is not in our pocket yet, and here we are spending money that we don't have, counting chickens before they're hatched. That's not responsible government, that's not public service, and the people are tired of increase after increase. So why should it be big this year if we're going to get millions of tax revenue in the future. We need to be putting the costs with the revenue, and this year is not it. So I'm asking the board to please look at this budget again. I'm not opposed to paying taxes, but they need to be put to good purpose with good reason, the needs of the town, not the wants of a few, and most certainly not at the expense of our seniors, our single parents, and the sick and disabled. Thank you.
Scott Chalwood, 35 Sterling Road, Worcester, Connecticut. I agree with everything that Carla had. She stole most of my stuff, so that's good. It's going to save me a couple of minutes here. But one of the things I do want to point out is that nobody has talked about is the debt service is going down at $811,000 this year. Now, I know that there's going to be a bond coming up, whether it's 2026 or 2027. But here we are in 2025, and we're going to spend that $811,000. That $811,000, because we know there's going to be a future spending in a year, maybe two, should not be spent in this budget. It needs to be cut out. There's your first cut. You got to find $811,000, so when we go to the next bond in either 2026 or 2027, the money's available. Because what will happen is you will turn around and come to the taxpayer and say, hey, we have to fix $6 million of stuff in the school, which I'm 100% behind, because yes, the schools are falling apart, and the town needs to support that, but you have the money open and available right now. And I understand that there's reasons why we can't bond yet. That money's available. Another, I believe, $600,000 will come off at the end of this year. So there's going to be $1.4 million that can be available to put together for a bond to fix the school properties, which is highly needed. All right, so we cannot spend that $811,000 in 2025. It cannot be included in this budget. Just some of the other points. People like to say, you know, throw up that the taxpayers don't support the teachers. Well, I'm going to say the teachers, the paras, and the custodians in this town are 100% underpaid. I'm not going to argue with anybody about that. I have a wife who's been a 25-year employee of the town of Plainfield as a para. She's dedicated her life to these kids. And what aggravates me is you turn around and you see admin after admin after admin added to this school system. And what does the teachers, the paras, and the custodians get? Absolutely nothing. They get their 2%, and we continue to add administration to the Board of Education. It's a travesty. Support people like my wife, who's dedicated 25 years to the school system. Do not just keep voting in to let them add more admin. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I heard Kevin today, because one of the things that's going to brought up is $1.5 million. You guys added $1.5 million to the fund balance this past year. What I like to call over-taxation. Kevin gets mad at me when I say that. That's fine. But there's $1.5 million you guys added to the fund balance, so there's certainly $1.5 million that can come right back out. I believe that put us at 26%. Whatever the percent before that was, that's what we should be living with. But we need to look at cuts. And we need to look, to Carla's point, we need to look at combining services. I brought it up last year. We need to look at IT. We need to look at facilities and maintenance. So we don't have overruns on buildings that we add into the town. Overruns should not happen. So we need to look at all kinds of combinations of services between the town and the school systems. Thank you.
I am the tax collector here, and just want to let you know, people cannot afford this. My collection rate's at 97, it should be right now 99. That's about $900,000 difference. People are making partial payments on motor vehicle bills, not just real estate and motor vehicles. You need to listen to everyone, just struggling. We shouldn't be doing extras of anything this year. People are struggling to put food on their tables. That's all I can say.
Good evening. Matt from Moosup. My comments are going to be exceptionally brief because almost everything's been covered so far. I would echo most of those sentiments, but particularly the topic that we just heard from our tax collector. We are at 97% of property taxes collected on the year. We are on track to finish below what the budgeted collection rate is. Against that backdrop, one would not be thinking that we would be putting forward a 2.6 mil increase in front of the public as a serious consideration for what might pass and what kind of timeline we're going to have to be on in order to have those discussions about where that number needs to get and what we need to do to get there. 97%. We forecast and budget at 98. It's a meaningful number. That's the type of return there that I would expect people to be talking about flat funding. And I know that's not anywhere near the table for discussion from anybody involved in these talks. So again, I'll just echo what was already said. We really need to be looking at what the capacity of the resident and the taxpayer in this town can afford. If we can't find a way to get the actuals into our model, be it education, be it the town services and operating budget, then we need to seriously reconsider what that model looks like. And we need to do some really deep thinking about what that looks like projecting forward. Right? I'm sure no single raindrop feels responsible for the flood. But it's that individual series of actions that are going to get us to where we need to be in order to put something that is both sustainable and something that's not going to be subject to an enormous shock should we have a revenue shortfall unexpectedly. Right? Direction is far more important than speed. And if we're looking at speed as a 2.6 mil increase, given what we know the town already cannot fully bear based on the actuals for the current operating year, then I'd say we are going way too fast. We need to pump the brakes, and we need to do what we can to get as much time back into these discussions to have real honest and hard conversations about where the trajectory needs to be recalibrated to. Let's get on the right footing and move slower so that it can be sustainable and manageable rather than charging into the wrong direction potentially at a speed nobody can afford to be going at. Thank you.
Hello, Diane Talbot, right on Pleasant Street, Plainfield. I wanted to address a few comments that I read in the minute, April 16, 2025, when you guys said to move forward with this hearing. The minutes indicate that Sean mentioned that residents are having trouble paying their taxes now. Dean sympathized with them, but they are not here speaking against the budget. Linda made a motion to move the budget forward as submitted, seconded by Don. Further discussion was held and the motion carried 4-3. I just want to touch on the comment about residents not being here to speak against it. Residents are not always able to attend the meetings for various reasons. Many of us have multiple jobs, transitioning from one job to the next. Families with young children face numerous challenges. Parents often work split shifts to minimize child care costs, and children have evening commitments that require transportation. Some residents are uncomfortable driving at night or in inclement weather, and others struggle to find a parking space to access the building. Our residents elected you to be their voice, and we are all witnessing their struggles. Students in our schools are struggling. The staff have to be aware of it. Pet owners are facing a strain. Animal control can see it. I'm sure our police officers are seeing the struggles out there as well. The tax collector is telling you about the struggles, and I'm seeing it too. Finance department has seen it. We've all seen our residents. We've all heard their voices. Since the reevaluation a few years ago, my taxes have really increased, and I'm sure all of our residents have too, and our renters are facing a higher rent. It's really hard out there for these people. We have to be their voices. Whether they're here or not, we hear you, we see you, we know you're struggling. I think that's it. Carla, you did a great job.
Hello, my name is Jessica Cooper. I live at 73 Kate Downing Road. I am a 5th grade teacher at the Memorial School, as well as a recent transplant to the town. I will start by saying that I have truly fallen in love with this town over the past 2 years. Before that, I did not know it existed. But I really do love it here. And I have heard from many previous speakers that we need to look out for our Plainfield neighbors, which I wholeheartedly agree with. However, I think our disagreement falls in how we believe we need to do that, how we look out for our fellow Plainfield residents. For me, I think looking out for our community means looking out for the children of that community. Children in well-funded schools with well-paid teachers have significantly better outcomes educationally and in terms of their employment going forward. I support the Board of Education's proposed budget with no cuts, and in fact, I believe it is still not high enough to provide salaries that will attract high-quality teachers to our community and fill our open positions. Whether we fund this with a mill increase, or a bond, or both, I will leave that to the experts. I am no financial person. But what I will say is, I want you to imagine, in just 10 years with education investments, how could this town be transformed? How many of these elderly, disabled, and otherwise needy people that we've been talking about could be supported by young people with high-paying jobs and educational opportunities beyond high school? How many of our young people would support those people by being able to pay these higher taxes and contribute to our town funds? And how many of our young people would avoid ending up in the same cycle that so many of our residents have found themselves in, struggling to pay bills and to support themselves in their old age, or when unfortunate things and unforeseen circumstances happen? Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Chris Russo. I've been a resident of 44 World Drive at Plainfield for the past 10 years, along with my wife, young son, and future daughter. First, as a social studies teacher, I'm happy to see all the civic engagement here. Thank you for all those that came out, those watching, and those that shared their opinion. For the audience, I want to apologize ahead of time. I'll be a few minutes as I go over data from our teachers that we've gathered over the past several years. For context, where my next statements come from. I've been a social studies teacher for the past 9 years, 8 of which have been in Plainfield, currently at Plainfield Central Middle School. I'm also membership and public relations chairman for the Plainfield's Teacher Union, the PEA, but my views do not represent the PEAs or the Board of Education. But with that being said, based on internal surveys done over the past few years, the overwhelming amount of Plainfield teachers would and do agree with my statements today. I'd like to urge Plainfield residents and the Board of Finance to approve, if not increase, the Board of Education budget. I know this will mean a mill rate increase, and that is not an ideal economic move to make in this time of financial uncertainty in the town, state, and country, but it's the right move to make. We want to make the town ready for the future. Now, I've been criticized for advocating for a pay increase for myself and other staff in Plainfield. That is true, of course. However, the tax increase would also hurt us resident teachers too, and staff, as the town is incredibly underpaid or frozen our pay for many years, and it'll be expensive for us too. While I'm going to advocate for myself, my peers, and my profession, those of us who are still in this profession in 2025 in Plainfield are doing it due to the support of our individual schools, our peers, parents, and our students. The reason that we all became teachers is to shape and grow the young minds of tomorrow, future engineers, scientists, and the leaders of the next generation. One of the most significant determinants for the success of children in the classroom is having happy teachers and low turnover in staff, according to the American University School of Education in Washington, D.C. Now, when I teach, I like to do a lot of hands-on activities as I find that I get great student engagement. So, I ask for those on attendance today. Please raise your hand if you had a public school teacher at any time during your early education. For those watching, all hands pretty much went up. Now, for those of you who answered, keep or put your hand in the air if at least one teacher made an impactful connection with you, helped you during a rough time in your life, gave you great school or life advice, or changed your life. So, as a town and society, we acknowledge the power of great teachers. They help to kickstart the lives of every profession and help to make civic-minded citizens, like all those watching, or in attendance today, something our founding fathers want to make sure to pass along from generation to generation. However, we as a society apparently do not think that teachers are professionals or want teachers who have competitive salaries like those of engineers, scientists, or other professionals with the same type of degrees that we have. So let's talk about all the staff who engage with, teach, and help Plainfield's youth every day. First of all, our salary benefits and other contractual obligations, like Mr. Brendan mentioned, made up about 75% of this Board of Education's budget. So if there are any cuts, they'll be first to non-essential but needed improvements to schools, technology, and then staff will be cut. Regarding school improvements, we have older buildings, as the recent building surveying report shows, and older buildings have more needs. My building has plumbing and electrical issues. For example, I got an AC for the first time in my classroom a couple years ago. However, when I would turn it on, it would trip the breaker in mine and adjoining rooms. So I just went without AC. I wish I taught about the Vietnam War because the students would have had first-hand experience of understanding of being humid, hot weather in the classroom in June through September. However, the electrical work has been pushed back due to budget constraints over the last few years. While minor, we also have our out of tissues and paper towels in the district, forcing teachers to buy either or both, or have kids use their hoodie or sleeves to clean up spilled water or snot. Regarding technology, the budget cuts from last year forced the Board of Education to cut about $100,000 from the technology budget. This is being felt around the districts. Students and teachers in the central school and high school reporting non-working Chromebooks and other technology that is essential in a modern classroom. Outside of the 12 certified administrators that oversee the schools, special education in district, we currently have 192 certified staff members who include teachers, psychologists, social workers, and guidance counselors. Almost a quarter of the teachers of the town in Plainfield School District, 42 of them, and one of our administrators, live and teach in this town. The majority of these staff have both a bachelor's and a master's degree. Some, like myself, have further education. For example, in our district, if you attain further education, such as a master's or a doctorate in your content area, approved by the district, you get a slight pay increase. So, for example, I'm currently going for a further degree so that I can both be better at my profession and also increase my salary for my family. Based on surveys, 75% of the teachers who responded have a second job. The same amount also generally have a spouse or partner who is working as well. Well, studies show that due to cost of living, housing, education, etc., that most families have to have a second income. The fact that teachers have to have another job to provide for their families is telling. As a personal example, I'm also a financial advisor on my off time from school to help provide for my family. Teachers should not have to do 2 or more jobs to provide for their families if we as a society care about education as much as we say we do. As well, 63% of the teachers also have a stipend position, such as coach, department head, team leader, club leader, or others to provide additional income. 55% of those that have the stipend job specifically do it for the additional income, even if they do live additional duty. For example, I've run a club at PCMS for the past 5 years, Financial Fun Club, where I help students learn about the personal finance, economics, and the stock market. In my club, the PCMS team won the Connecticut stock market game for middle school for 2 years and was 8th in the nation, which won us a trip to Washington, D.C. last year. As much as I love this, and I love teaching middle schoolers about personal finance, I wouldn't do it for free at this point in my career. The fact that a large number of teachers have extra paid duties to help supplement our salary because it's needed is telling. As public relations chairman for the PEA, I've been keeping track of the teachers who have left our district, the reasons why, and why they're making, and how much they're making now in other districts. From 2013 to 2021, we've had an average of 14 certified staff leave each year, the majority of them being from retirement. From 2021 to 2025, we've had an average of 31.25 certified staff leaving each year, with the overwhelming majority being resignations. And last year, having 46 certified staff leaving. This year, we have 18 that have left, and I know for sure we're going to have more leaving that are not retirements by the end of summer 2025. Some critics have said that turnover happens in all businesses. 18 members leaving a year is about a 9% turnover rate, which is perfectly acceptable. However, last year's teacher exodus was about 24% turnover, and this summer's exodus will probably be similar unless changes are made now. This rate is untenable, and it has and will put strain on all staff. Yes, most positions outside of special ed have already been mostly hired back, but a large swath of them are new teachers and needed a lot of support, which is causing more and more teachers to have higher rates of burnout. Since teaching here in Plainfield, we've had multiple pay freezes over the years due to budget constraints. And as our negotiation season is approaching, I'm afraid of it happening again due to cuts in our budget. This would be severely detrimental to us getting high-quality staff that our students need and deserve. As is, I can work with another school district for about a $21,000 increase as the other school honored their years of service, even though Plainfield had frozen their salaries several times. As educators, we are vastly underpaid for our degrees and experience compared to other degrees in Connecticut. Data from the University of Connecticut shows that the average starting pay of its master's graduates is $65,000. We are grossly underpaying them down. I've been a teacher for 9 years, and I don't make that yet. I also have 3 associate degrees, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and I'm working on a second master's. With our current teacher's contract, I can go back in time to 2016 when I taught at NFA and still make more money there at my current step than I currently do here. That is absurd. Worse, I can go back to NFA at the salary step that I should have been at Plainfield if Plainfield had not frozen teachers' salaries for years and make about $18,000 more than Plainfield. On Zillow, when you look at the bottom of the page of any house in Plainfield, it shows the school districts and the ratings are abysmal. Why would new families looking for a house in a good school system come to Plainfield? And if your families move to Plainfield and even possibly leave, we lose great residents and taxpayers. We need to make changes now. I'm not saying that throwing money at the schools is the end-all be-all, but cutting the proposed Board of Ed budget year after year is having its natural consequences. The facts are that teachers are leaving for better pay. Those vacancies are partially filled by newer, cheaper teachers to make our budget stretch. These newer teachers are brand new in a post-COVID time that makes going to Iraq and Afghanistan look like fun, which makes veteran teachers trying to prevent them from drowning start to burn out as well. While we have many amazing supportive families and parents, we also have families that send angry and nasty emails to staff that are doing their best, that does nothing but make the teachers want to quit. Teachers joke that we missed the COVID era of 2020, 2021. Parents in the nation actually acknowledge how hard it was to teach and gave us some recognition. That feeling of support is mostly gone now. We are trying to do the best we can with what we have. It reminds me of a quote I saw carved on a sentry post in Afghanistan in 2010. We, the unwilling, led by the unknowing, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. We've done so much for so long with so little, we are now qualified to do anything with nothing. If you told me when I was getting my teaching degree in 2013 that I could fight to keep good educators and get mediocre pay for us, I wouldn't have believed you. Unfortunately, that's 2025 apparently. Teachers are overworked, underpaid, and feeling unappreciated by the town as much as the PTO of our schools try. With the way the town residents are voting, it's not showing Plainfield public school teachers that education is valued and making many of us work on our resumes and have a CT reopen every day to look for better opportunities. We can do better as a town. Our students, kids, and staff deserve it. Does the board have any questions that I might be able to answer as a resident or a teacher?
No, at this time, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a couple of quick statements from students. I'm just going to summarize. I had some students reach out to me knowing that this was happening. I have 2 PHS students, 1 Plainfield Central Middle School students who advocate for increasing the budget as they're seeing the effects of technology and they're fearful of arts and other sports possibly cuts happening in the future. And I can always send that to the Board of Finance as well for those students. Thanks so much.
Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Mike Broughton, Plainfield, Pond Street, Plainfield. I really struggled tonight on what I was going to say, if anything at all. I've spoken at length in my official capacity, obviously in favor of the Board of Education proposed budget that was passed unanimously. It really took a lot of work. That was the culmination of months of hard work by the staff and us. And when speaking with my wife prior to coming here this evening, she is much smarter than I am, so she just suggested that I speak out as a parent instead of in my official capacity. So any of my opinions here, while they may coincide with the official statements of the Board of Ed, they do not represent the Board of Ed. I wanted to speak on one topic in particular, especially, pardon me. Thank you, Mrs. Jordan, for bringing up a very good point earlier. So I can answer a question that you had earlier. What was the need for an athletic director at this time? Yes, we are proposing a one-year co-op with football. That is one of 12 to 15 varsity athletics that we have at the high school. That's actually even more of a need, more of a reason why we need an athletic director at the high school to manage this co-op. It is being hosted at Plainfield High School. I've had many questions over the past few months regarding the need for a district athletic director. To answer that, allow me to provide you with a little bit of background. As a coach who has guided kids through countless seasons, I can confidently assert the transformative power of sports. Nothing brings me greater joy than watching young athletes develop into confident and resilient individuals. Youth sports are far more than just games. They are a critical component of a well-rounded education. Regular participation enhances physical health, improves cardiovascular fitness, strength, coordination, but it also boosts mental well-being, reduces stress, and elevates self-esteem. Team sports foster communication, collaboration, and the pursuit of shared goals. Our children learn valuable skills such as time management, accountability, and the determination to overcome setbacks. Research consistently shows that student athletes excel academically thanks to increased focus and disciplined routines. Sports cultivate leadership abilities, decision-making skills, and a sense of community pride. For many of our students, especially those at greater risk, this is the only reason why they come to school. To uphold and enhance this vital program, we require a full-time athletic director. This is not a luxury, it's an absolute necessity. A 6 to 12 athletic director is responsible for overseeing every aspect of our sports programs, ensuring they operate smoothly, align with our school's values, and comply with state regulations. Their role is crucial in providing our student athletes with the opportunities they need to excel in both sports and in their academic pursuits. I urge you to review the Board of Education's website, which clearly outlines the extensive responsibilities of a full-time athletic director. Let me emphasize a few critical tasks. Scheduling is a daily challenge that demands unwavering attention. Without a dedicated individual to resolve conflicts, we risk forfeits, preventable losses that disappoint our kids and threaten the integrity of our program. Ensuring compliance with Division I eligibility and safety regulations isn't merely about adherence to the rules. It's about safeguarding our students and securing their future opportunities. Promoting events, celebrating achievements, and launching new programs are vital for keeping our community engaged and our offerings fresh. These responsibilities alone justify the need for a full-time position, not to mention the additional duties of budgeting, coordinating travel, and maintaining facilities. We're not discussing a wish list for a premier program. We're outlining the absolute essentials required to keep our athletics program operational and to ensure our young athletes succeed. A full-time athletic director is the critical element we need to empower our youth to continue growing, competing, and thriving. Let's give our students the foundation they need to succeed.
My name is Samantha Darenthal. I live in Moosup. I'm also on the Board of Education. I just want to thank you all for coming tonight, as well as for speaking. If you haven't noticed, I have been taking copious amounts of notes. I just want to do what I do, which is teach back what I'm hearing, as well as explain how I make my decisions about what to support or what not to when I'm looking at these, because I think that's really important. And I have to say that our job is to represent the residents, as many people have pointed out. This is my second year on the board, and I really want to balance the needs versus the wants. I think the definition of needs is a little bit different if you look at the data about Plainfield. So Mr. Cunningham pointed out that we have the 20th lowest mill rate. We're also in the top 20 for the highest level of disconnected youth. That means by the time you're 26, we have the highest number of people who are between 14 and 26 who will not be able to support themselves financially due to their education or their circumstances. We also have the highest level, we're in the top 20 for the most economically distressed towns. That tells me two things. that an increase in mill rate is going to put a greater burden, which many of you have said. It also it continues to put us behind. And so I think that's the balance that we all need to try and make. And I think a lot of people have said that, like, we need to balance, but we can't do it this year. This is my second year, and this is the second year that I've heard that. That is not necessarily true for the previous years. I do want to say that when we look at what is a want versus a need, we look at the data of what people have said to us or what we have. So we have, in the past year, we have had 2 meetings where people have publicly come and commented on what is needed at the Board of Education. One was for a budget, and we heard a lot about an athletic director. We heard a lot about a school resource officer. We heard those 2 things come up over and over again as we talked about the budget. As Mr. Charlwood can tell you, Facebook, I have made a comment that Facebook comments don't count unless they are part of public record. And tonight I bring you the data from some posts since March of this year. We've had 19 unique comments on the posts that I could find about the budget. So that's 19 comments. There were several people who commented over and over again. And most of those just were the word no, or something to that effect with no actionable items. I have to give it to some people who originally started saying no and then coming with, I don't want this, or here's a number in the budget I don't understand. That's helpful, because then we can make a better decision going into these. As we look at what we want to do, the biggest thing that we can do for our disconnected youth, making sure that they have jobs after graduation and making sure they graduate, and then the economically distressed, is to start investing and making sure that they are not going to be disconnected. That means they are employable after high school, that they graduate high school. And ways to do that are to get them to the school. There's also, we hear a lot when we hear about, when we have people come up to us and talk to us about these things, it's always along the same lines. Why are our test scores so low? Why, we need more safety. We need someone who's going to come in and make safety part of what we do. We want to connect it to the community. We need specialized curriculums. Our schools need to be updated. And so as we are looking at all of this information, because we are very inundated with information, we have to look for themes and we have to look for what will we do. And I think that no matter what happens tonight, whatever the Board of Finance, whatever you vote to do, we're obviously going to need it. But you heard Chris speak about teacher pay, and you heard people talk about the balance between wants and needs. And so I just hope that whatever the outcome of tonight is, whether this goes or doesn't go and what we want reductions, is that you feel comfortable reaching out to the people who you know, who are making these decisions to say, here's what I need to support and here's what I don't. Because it's not enough to say no. We need input about what matters to you. Thank you.
I am definitely a no for the 2.6. But what I find interesting is that I've been attending meetings for many years now, and every year there's like a common theme where the budgets are introduced, and then there's like a negotiation back and forth. You know, the residents come out to vote, then the boards re-meet again, and you cut back. It's expected. It's predictable. What I found very unreal this year was how fast this 2.6 budget just got sent here tonight. So I'm in lockstep with Carla Desjardins and Mr. Charlwood. I do not think that the Board of Finance took enough time to really look at this. It was very, very rash. I, however, found it interesting a couple years ago at one of our annual town meetings. There was an older couple in the audience, and they were discussing that they were newly elected, newly moved to the town of Plainfield. And
the gentleman asked me how our budget system worked and how we voted, because the town that they had moved from did line item by line item. And what I am starting to think of for the town of Plainfield is if our Board of Finance members who we are electing and entrusting with a fiduciary duty are not going to start listening and really respecting what the voices of the public are, then maybe we need changes to our budget process. Maybe the legislative body, which is we the people, need to start saying, this line item we like, this one we want cut. This one we like, this one we want cut. Because I am in agreement, I support the teachers, I support the paras. I do not support administrators making large sums of money at the expense of the seniors and the disenfranchised to give here. My only thing is that I'm not so okay this year with an absolute no to the Board of Education budget, where in the past I have been. Because what I have found happening is that the Board of Ed, their budget gets cut, and that's what they have to live on till the next year. The town budget gets cut, and there's line item after line item after line item transfers and fund balance removals that the Board of Ed do not get the luxury of having throughout the year. So I'm not so sure I'm an absolute no yet. One of the things I am going to say is I recently had the pleasure as a grandmother to attend the preschool orientation. I thought it was wonderful that the people that were welcoming the new parents in with children said, if there's a financial issue, please do not let it prevent you. We will work with you. So you're there, you're hearing, and I commend you for that. That's it, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
Hello, my name is Robert Colley. I live in too tall. Robert Colley, Warren, Connecticut. First and foremost, just to preface my comments, it's I believe 2.6 is too much. Some of the heartfelt speeches were definitely heard, and as far as sometimes if we disagree with teachers or if we disagree with some of the people that are on Social Security, it's not always that we're against them. If we say something about the police department, I always want to preface that. If we find fault in a budget or something that we're spending too much money on, it's nothing personal, it's nothing against anybody individuals. I think first and foremost we have to think of what we don't usually think of is the piggy bank of what we're pulling from. And what does that look like? What is the median income in our town? The best I can find is the most recent, if you use the website of the town, it's like $67,000 to $70,000 for median income. I always like to preface things with that. Sorry, I'm a little nervous here. But anyway, I just, like I said, I wanted to put that on record as well as far as the mill rate. Mr. Cunningham brought up as far as the 20th. I don't want to say it's a little disingenuous, if that's the lack of a better term, but I mean, we also have to remember that 2 years ago we absorbed a massive, the residents, mind you, and I know not the fault of the town, but the residents absorbed what equated to a $5 million increase that year. I always have to repeat that, and it was a big hit, and it probably was more for other people. I know my parents are elderly, they live in a home, they're on a fixed income, and if I told you what they made in a year, you would die, because it's I don't know how they survive, to tell you the truth. But regardless, we always have to keep our senior citizens in mind when we're talking about our budget. I think, and coming to these meetings a lot of times, I think we basically as citizens are only voting on basically 20% of the budget. I mean, the salaries are contractual, they're contractually obligated, so we don't really have a say in that too much. I mean, we can say our piece of what we think, if somebody makes too much, too little, but, so it comes down to a lot of times cuts that are just minuscule. And it's just leading me into the main body of the subject that I don't think no one talks about, and I think Mr. Cunningham said it briefly in opening statements, and I don't think we ever talk about it, is a fund balance. Our fund balance right now, it was a speech by a gentleman that came that was the accountant, Kyle Connors. It was, if anybody gets a chance, the videos that they tape on here are very informative. If you can't come to the meetings, I try to watch them. I appreciate that you do it. And he was extremely informative. And I just wanted to go through some of the numbers. We talk about scraping together some of these funds to fund the schools, to fund and try to keep the mill rate down. But 2021, I believe our fund balance was a little over $8 million. Now, just to preface this again, I'm using that word way too many times, a town's fund balance represents the net amount of assets minus liabilities within a specific fund, typically the general fund. It's the leftover money. According to the gentleman, Kyle, we'll call him, he was asked, what should you have a percentage? I believe you guys remember this meeting. What percentage of your general fund should you have in your fund balance? His statement was, quote, anything north of 8% is healthy. Our fund balance right now is at 26%. It's admirable that we save that money, but the town is not in the business of saving money. It's in the business. We shouldn't have access, in my opinion, when that happens, give it to the people that gave it back to you. They deserve it back into their accounts, into their savings accounts. When you have a 26% fund balance, it has, sorry, we have an unassigned, that amounted to $13.3 million. It was a $1.5 million increase. Interest income, $720,000. And I think the chairman, and as I was listening to this gentleman, it was starting to click. You know, the Government Finance Officers Association suggests, this is, I'm sure you're familiar with that, they suggest a 2-month of operating expenses. It's a good practice to have more money in case of emergency. So their suggestion is 2 months. Anything, Mr. Gorman was asked what 8% would be. And Kyle said just under 3 months. We have 26%. I think your question came to him and you were asked, we know what little we have. What is too much? When do we stop that? And do we have a fund balance policy? I'd like to know that. It's very, you read on the budget, we see all the line items and you see what we spend the money on in the fund balance, but we don't see the balance of what is left. Page 7 or 8, you can see what is spent from the fund balance. But the people never see that we have $13 million in there. And I might be basic by stating this, and obviously there's more to it, but I think that's important. And I mean, if we're spending this kind of money to fund the budget, I don't think we should incur more on the taxpayers. If it needs to come out of the fund balance, maybe some people won't want to hear that. I think we have too much in the fund balance. And I'd like to see a number that we not only have a minimal amount, but what is too much? Where are we going to stop at when the funds should go back to the people that gave it to you? Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If there's no one else that would like to address the board, then I will entertain a motion that we adjourn. Oh yes, in 2 weeks, we will have the referendum. Kevin, could you remind me what the hours are for the referendum that day?
That'll be May 19th from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
here at the town hall.
Motion to adjourn?
Could you remind everyone of the next steps for the Board of Finance? Can you remind everyone about the next steps for the Board of Finance?
Oh, yes, thank you, Samantha. Our purpose tonight was to listen to you. That was our job. And we appreciate everybody that came out and spoke. A lot of great contributions. We are meeting tomorrow night, and that's where we will begin to deliberate on the next phase. As was alluded to, the budget process actually begins when the previous budget is passed. And the various departments, as the superintendent alluded to, they begin, they put together a budget, they revisit the budget, they make whatever adjustments they feel are necessary at the time, and then we meet over the course of the month of April with all the departments, and then the next step is we listen to what you have to say. And that was our job tonight, so I appreciate everybody that came out and everybody that voiced their comments. We do appreciate them. Tomorrow night is when we will actually begin making deliberations. The meeting is at 7:30 and it is open to the public.
6:30.
What did I say, 7:30? Okay, thanks. It is at 6:30. Sorry about that. All right, motion has been made to adjourn by Lynn, seconded by Don. All in favor? Signify by aye. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.